Hello everybody, so I'm back again. Now for anyone who's worried that I used to do videos this way, face to face and everything, and I've changed it to now I have music, I have an intro and an outro, I have album covers, I have text all over the place. So for people who prefer that, and I'm sure all of you do because it's loads better, don't worry, I'm thinking that I'm going back to this because I can't be bothered. That's not the case. Them type of things will still be here in single reviews and album reviews and things like that. The only reason I'm doing this is because this is not really about a certain album. It's basically a discussion and everything. So instead of it being a video, it's just, you know, like one-on-one or one to how many people view this. So I just thought it'd be a bit more personal, and a lot of times some people like to actually see the face behind the thing, so if that is the case, then here I am. So as you can see from the title of this video, it's going to be about bands that I kind of have a hate for or a dislike, or just things more kind of general, like things about metal that I don't like. So not really a band, maybe kind of the fandoms or things that comes with metal which I don't really like it. So I'm gonna say now, if there's famous bands you like and you're easily triggered, you're not going to enjoy this video, because there are going to be bands I say that are massive, so they have a lot of fans, and I'm going to basically say I don't like them, which is fine. That is my opinion, and I'm allowed to think that. I am going to give reason to it. I'm going to give as good a reason as I can. I'm not going to be harsh. I'm going to be as nice as I possibly can be, but I am going to give reason and try and back myself up, because if I just say I hate something like Iron Maiden, I don't. But if I say I hate Iron Maiden, and then I give no reason to it, then you're not going to understand why. So hopefully you can just accept the fact that I like this band that he doesn't like, but he raised some points that I can understand. But personally, I like it, but if he doesn't want to like it, I can understand that, and that is fine. So if you can't do that, then you may as well just leave, and if you can, then let's try and just have a bit of fun with this, and just maybe I'll open you up to some things you just haven't thought about. So I'm going to start off with a pretty big one. So a band I kind of hate, it's not even dislike, I kind of hate them, is AC/DC. I hate that band. I think that band is pretty dreadful. Now the reasons for this is because, one, the singer. Now vocally this guy isn't actually singing, he's kind of like squealing, and it's not actually singing, it's just and it's just, that's annoying. That is such an annoying sound. It's not singing, it's squealing like a bloody pig, and it sounds dreadful. Now, other than that, you have the actual kind of structure of all the songs. All the structures of the songs are very, very similar. It's just simple beats, just dun, 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 dun. It's very catchy, very simplistic kind of beats and everything, which is why AC/DC is probably quite open to a lot of people, is that they're very catchy because it's just so simplistic and just catchy stuff. There's no real kind of interesting stuff going on. Now, as for the guitarist, a lot of people do like the guitarist of this band. I don't. I hate the guitar tone. The guitar tone, for people who don't know, the guitarist uses no gain. There is no gain whatsoever. And he makes up for this with basically turning his amps up to the highest of highs. And that's how he says he gets the gain. Now my dad says this is why AC/DC sounds like a very heavy, beefy, high gain band. I'm like, they really don't. He's like, yeah, but they do, because they turn the volume up. I'm like, I don't care, I hear no gain. And seeing that you said they don't use gain, that kind of makes sense. He's like, you're an idiot, Zach, because they turn the volume up, that's where the gain comes from. I don't hear any gain. I don't know, maybe I'm a complete moron, and there is heavy gain and they're brutal like Cannibal Corpse or something, but that does not sound anything the same. The sound is extremely thin, extremely piercing, and it sounds terrible to me. It's just absolutely piercing. Plus the piercing, shrieking vocals, the overall sound is just dreadful. It's a terrible sound. I like proper singers. This guy can't sing. If they hired a better singer, it would definitely improve it for me. If the songs were just a bit more interesting instead of basically the same kind of thing, that would help. And if the guitar tone just had something of a nice tone apart from just pure shrieking, that would also help. But overall, pretty much everything about the band I dislike. So, going on to another big band, but a bit more modern, is Slipknot, or I call it Slip-on-a-Knot. Yeah, Slipknot. Now, when I was a kid, all my friends listened to this because it's said to be the greatest metal band of today's generation. They are the biggest, they are the greatest. This is now what metal is. Now, I don't think someone can come along and just say, I'm going to do something completely different, and then basically just say this is metal, and then the people who created it, to hell with them. I've now took it, they have no control over it. They made metal, they said this is this, and that is now it for me. And that's it. So, sorry I threw something at my cat because he's trying to pull the tree down. Slipknot, when I was a kid, people were basically always having a go at me because I kept saying, I don't know why you like Slipknot. And people were confused and kept asking me, why do you dislike them? And then I would tell them, and they get angry at me for it just because they asked. And it's just like, why are you angry at me? It's your fault because you asked. If you didn't want to hear it, don't ask. If you cannot handle it, and you want to be childish about it and have a whine about it just because I dislike it, don't ask why I dislike something when all you're going to do is, when I explain why I dislike it, have a go at me. It's really stupid. So, you don't want to know that, again, just turn it off. But if you're interested in why I dislike Slipknot, the mask thing, I think is very idiotic. I think it's extremely childish. I don't like the masks they wear. Corey Taylor is a terrible vocalist in Slipknot. I listen to Stone Sour and they're pretty alright. They're a bit kind of lazy and the music is very simple. But there are a lot of songs in Stone Sour where vocally he is extremely good. He's an incredible vocalist. But in Slipknot, he's not singing in the slightest. There's the odd songs where true he does sing, but overall he's screaming his head off, and I hate it. It's just a lot of noise. I have no idea what he's saying. He goes soberly quick that I have no idea what he's saying. It's just super quick, then shouting, and that's not really enjoyable to me. It's not something I kind of want to sit there and kind of listen to and relax to. It's just something that's just like, he's just screaming and he's so angry, and I don't want to hear this. And then I don't like rap. Yeah, he sings so quickly. He's kind of like speed shout rap, and it sounds dreadful. I don't like rap because it's basically just speaking with poetry. It's basically just a rhythm poetry reading. That is it. And Corey is basically doing it, but in a very angry way because he's so angry for some reason. And it just comes across as absolutely terrible. Screaming sucks. The speed rap thing he does is absolutely terrible. It sounds awful. It's not musical in the slightest. It's not talented. It's just yelling. It's not, he has a good voice. He's just yelling. It's not even good. It's not musical. It's not tone-based or anything. It's just yelling for yelling. Anyone can just yell into the mic. So basically, Slipknot therefore shows that you need no talent whatsoever to be a singer in that band. Yet they have a very talented singer, but don't even use it for pretty much 80-90% of the time, showing how great a musicians they are by actually using the best of their abilities. Now, other than that, you have the rest of the band, which kind of come together and they kind of just wail on their instruments. They just completely go very harsh with the instruments. They're banging like crazy, and there's nothing that kind of takes slow time and nothing that really breathes. They're just kind of all aggressive, so it's just loads of aggressive sounds that all blend together to make mush and sound terrible. that'll probably lead me into the next thing I hate, which is a general kind of topic, which is screamo. I hate screamo. Now, I hate screamo because I don't understand the lyrics. I can't hear the lyrics. I can't follow with the lyrics. It's basically just there's multiple types of screaming. So people who say there is different varieties of screams. Yeah, there's the which sounds obviously stupid. Then there's the really high pitched and it sounds stupid. And then there's normal stuff that is just in the middle. So you just get your really deep, your high, and then your mids, and then there's not really anything else. That is it. You can be low, high, or in the middle, and that's as far as you can go. There is no other types of screaming. If you have a playlist of all screaming bands, they all sound exactly the same. There is nothing unique about it. They just all sound exactly the same because screaming, you cannot diverse it in the slightest. It's either the deep growliness or the high pitch or in the middle. And other than that, it's all the same exact band. So they are all incredibly boring. I have no idea what they're saying. And it's not musical. That's the thing. And leading on to the next thing that I hate. I kind of hate the fan base. I'm kind of feel embarrassed of saying that I'm a metal fan because the metal community has made it such an embarrassment that I will then be put into that. But I'm not like that. I'm something else. I'm a metalhead. I listen to metal. It's all I really listen to. I'm such a fan of music and metal, and if I go without music, I get quite paranoid. It's a relaxant to me, basically. I have some mental problems, and music really helps me. I need it. If I go without it, it can be quite damaging to me. So I'm seriously into the metal stuff, and I try and find as many metal bands as I like out there. I enjoy finding new bands. But metal to me is what metal is supposed to be. When Black Sabbath and people around that time came together to then make the fundamentals of what metal is, said this is it. Because there was no metal before it, so it's like, what is this sound? What do you call it? And they said, we're going to call it heavy metal. And that was it. That is what metal is. So that's the sound. Now, obviously, metal has progressed, and obviously, I don't want to say metal should always be the same. I hate metal, which is always the same, copying a very similar formula. For me, metal is basically going out of the boundaries of the norm. It is trying new things. It's a lot of ways of expressing oneself. It's a lot of show of talent and new ideas, nothing remaining the same, loads of structure, and great ingenious musicianship. That's what I see as metal. Now, where metal evolves is bands, I would say, like what Iron Maiden does. Iron Maiden never stays consistent from album to album. Each album always starts changing it. Dream Theater never stays exactly the same. They keep changing their sound. And bands like Avenged Sevenfold. Now, Avenged Sevenfold have a very modern, tight sound. That's the new kind of sound of metal, the new modern technology that they use for their sound, as well as making things a bit more heavy and a bit more gainier. And then, obviously, Avenged Sevenfold take the fundamental metal as we use singing. We use a lot of great leads and great solos, big structures, big songs. But we have our own ideas. Like, do a space theme thing. We had our self-titled, which was kind of like poppy and a bit more upbeat. And they just play around with that. But everything is always metal at its core. Now, when you take Screamo takes away the fundamental of actually singing. There is no more of it. No great vocals, no great real lyrics. And if there is, you can't understand them. For all I know, they could be screaming about doing their taxes. And I wouldn't have a clue. And probably a lot of people wouldn't have a clue about it. Because it's so difficult to have a clue what they're on about. Now, again, even heavy metal bands where they're proper going at it with pure speed and everything, and then it comes to the solo and there is none in sight. So you have bands with screaming, which is not what metal originally was. Then there is no solos, which was what metal originally had. No soaring vocals, which the original kind of bloody had. and the song's around 3 minutes, and it's a very simple structure of pop. So the pop's kind of, the song starts, and then you have your chorus, and you pretty much had your song wrapped up right there and then. So they've got rid of the bigger, more open songs that just span multiple kind of sounds and styles. Therefore, I don't class it as metal. So why I say I hate the fans is because fans nowadays say, I listen to metalcore. Now, I don't like the term metalcore, because metalcore sounds like this is metal at its core base. Wouldn't metalcore at its fundamentals be Black Sabbath? Because that's the core essence of metal. They are the creators. They were the ones who gave us metal. So why would we say they're not the core of metal, but now they are actually classic metal? How can you dare basically take their title of what they made? That's like someone inventing something, and then down the line you kind of change it, and you basically just take their entire title away from that person who had the fundamental idea. You have no right doing that. But the metal community, for some reason, believes they do. And they haven't questioned this, and they don't actually see any problem. They seem kind of like they're being dicks to the actual people who made metal. Metalcore is Maiden. Metalcore to me is Sabbath and Ozzy. That is metalcore to me, not... That's what metalcore is. That is the core essence of metal. No, it bloody isn't. It's got nothing to do with metal. Metal at its core is what was created. And then you can kind of go around that. Now, people could probably argue to me, well, metal with screaming, everything's the same, you just have a screamer. But I'd still argue that you took away a big part of it, which is great vocals. There's none there, it's all screaming. You had great vocals. Now, Ozzy isn't a great vocalist, but he has a very unique voice. But then you do have good vocalists like Bruce Dickinson, the singer of Dream Theater, and other things, and then some voices which aren't good, they just have a unique sound to them. Screaming is not really unique, it's a terrible sound, and it's not good voices either, it's just mess. And metal is always a show of great talent. Screaming is just stupid and immature. And a lot of people have had to go into hospital and have surgeries because of the damage of what screaming does. And some people say, oh, there's a proper way to go, rah, rah, rah. You know, the mature way. You look like an idiot, you sound like an absolute infant, it's pathetic. So, screaming is its own thing. If you say it's its own thing and it's took away from metal, fine. You can have your thing, I can have my thing. But no, screaming is basically killing metal. That is the thing. I've seen fans basically saying, I listen to proper metal, I don't really like classic metal or classic rock, like Sabbath, Ozzy, Metallica, Megadeth, Maiden. They're more kind of classic rock. They have nothing to do with classic rock. They are metal, and they are metal at its core. They are the creators, they are basically the leaders of metal, they are the gods of metal. And you're calling them not even metal, because they're too poppy. That's another thing I hate about the community. They have no idea what pop is. Now let me give you something that will mess with your brains and show you what the real pop is. So I've seen people complain about bands like Avenged Sevenfold for being pop. So they have a massive range of vocals with Matt Shadows. He's not one of the greatest vocalists, but he does have range. And he does have some really good lyrics, and very in-depth lyrics. So there's that. You do have a guitarist, and some people say he's terrible, but he does massively long-length solos. They have a lot of variety to them. There's solos in every single track. Then you have the songs that go on for absolute ages, and it's not the same formula. The songs constantly change. There's leads throughout. That's metal. And it's heavy. So it's following in metal, but because it's not screaming, therefore it's pop. So let's dissect a screaming band. So we get an intro. We get massive chugs, but that is it. We don't have anything great with leads and solos like Sinister does on the whammy. It's just dun 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 dun, and that's it, because it's a very simple beat. Something I can go dun 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 dun, and you can kind of nod to it, and it's very simple. I don't have to think about it. It's very simple, just a really heavy beat. I can do this too. That's all I need. I don't give a damn about anything else because my brain cells don't go that far. So you have that, and that is it. Then you have the verse, which is just a dun dun, just with simple rah, rah, and then you have the chorus, which just kind of opens the sound up, but there's nothing really going on underneath. It's still very simple, and then still screams, and you don't get a solo. So that is metal because it's very brutal. So let's think about a pop song. So a pop song, you get a very simple beat. You can't overcomplicate it. It has to be very simple. Something like dun 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 dun. Just, you know, and then, you know, you can click and it's just got the kind of drum, bum 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 bum. That sounds like pop to me. That is pop. Then you get your verse, which kind of carries that on. They don't do anything new or unique because people's minds would be like, I'm so lost and confused. And then you get very simple vocals with very simplistic lyrics. But people can go like that and things, and then you get a chorus, and that's about the song. But you get a simple beat. So good screaming bands kind of follow the pop thing. So screamo is pop. Wow. So all these people saying Avenged Sevenfold's pop because they're not heavy enough. Yeah, they do a lot of great leads. Yeah, there's a lot of varied vocals. Yes, the songs are very massive in length, but they don't have a simple beat to them. That is what metal is. Simple beats. Really? Let's take Trivium. I like Trivium, but one of their most famous songs is a song called In Waves. Now this is just in waves, in waves, in waves. You can guess where the next line goes. You got it? Yes, in waves. Must have took a long time to come up with that. Shows great musicianship and talent, in fairness. And then underneath it, it's just dun 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 dun. That's very simple. Nothing to that. But people love it. Why? Because it's in waves, and the dun dun dun. It's heavy, therefore brilliant, and therefore proper epic metal. It's pop. It is a very poppy formula. It's very bland, it's very boring, it's very lazy, it's very simple. But it's a beat, therefore brilliant. Why don't you listen to pop? If you have pop where they turn the gain up, I kind of think everyone would actually be on board with them. It's pretty atrocious, really, that the heavy metal community is having a go at what metal actually is. And now they're kind of making things just heavy gain but going closer to pop. This ain't good. The fan base are killing everything, and that's why I'm ashamed. Screaming is embarrassing. It's an absolute embarrassment when we used to be known for great musicians, great vocalists. We can't even argue that anymore. We have bands where the sound is so fat that everything bleeds together, because everyone just wants such a bass sound that there is actually nothing to distinguish what's being played. So you've killed the sound. You have vocals where you have no idea what's going on. So there's no range of vocals. There's no great lyrics to really go to. You sometimes don't even get a blooming solo. And some people say, well, you can get screaming bands where there is a lot of leads and you get a solo. Yeah, you can. But then it's always aggressive and fast. They just go from simplistic to overly complicated, but then it's just always complicated. Which is therefore simple structure again, because they're not spanning and doing multiple things. They're lazily doing what they always do. It's the death of metal. And the metal community are basically killing the creators. And they say, I like Maiden, I like Metallica, but Screamo is great. And I like In Waves because of that great beat. You're basically changing everything to pop. You need to notice this. There can be great beats and everything, but you need more than just constant in wave, in wave, in wave, in wave. We insult pop bands which do this. Yeah, In Waves is loved. And things along them lines. You're being hypocrites. You're completely blind to this. And it's embarrassing. Avenged Sevenfold's not pop. They are the essence of metal. Slipknot are said to be basically the new Sabbath. The new Maiden. They sound nothing like it. The vocals are nothing like it. The playing is nothing like it. The structures are nothing like it. It's just a lot of mess. It sounds like 50 Cent because he raps very aggressively. It just sounds like a very angry 50 Cent, or 50p as I call him, or Toothpick. And then it's just very muddy instruments that are just kind of attacking. It's like having a baby who's whining and you just give them the guitar and it's just like wow, 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 and they're just banging living daylights out of it. So that is basically my long rant about the fans. You are killing metal, and you don't have a clue about metal. You actually don't know. People accuse me of not knowing metal. I kind of follow as this was what metal was, so this is what metal is. But no, people are saying this is what metal was, therefore now that isn't what metal is. Which sounds unbelievably thick. So let's kind of just move on from this. Other bands that I kind of dislike. Breaking Benjamin. The Breaking Benjamin is said to be a great band as well. But they're not. Now, I liked Breaking Benjamin. I was a great supporter of Breaking Benjamin. The, what album was it? Phobia? The Man and He Has Wings. That album with the Diary of Jane. I really liked that album. I listened to that loads when I was in school. That was a fantastic album. And it was really unique because it was so dark and so emotional. And it was just such a nice, really interesting sound. But the album before that, it was kind of dark and very emotional, unique sound. And then the album after Phobia, I believe it is, Dear Agony. It was a very dark, very emotional album. And they fell apart and lost all the members apart from Ben. So then they brought in 3 whole new members, all with new fresh brains and ideas, because they're not the same people. So how did it change? It was a very dark, very emotional album. Then we got the next one, which was actually a change. All the fans were so pleased that they've actually changed their sound. So it's a very dark, very emotional album. But they use gain. Yes. Are you kidding me? How can you be so... I don't want to be rude, but you gotta be kidding. Breaking Benjamin, it's the same sound all the time. They've got new musicians, but it's always melodic riffs with barely any guitar, just vocals with a very, very simple guitar tone, just to basically have the voice go over something a bit more eerie, just so the voice is open and everything. Then very simple choruses, but it's always dark and very emotional. Just because, and then girls love it, and guys kind of like it just because it's kind of unique and dark, I guess. But it's always very quiet riffs, pretty much all the time. There's no solos, no great leads, nothing good music-wise. They're all simplistic. The vocals always do the same thing, the same exact formula. The songs are all very simple and basic in structure. So they've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 albums, and all the albums is basically just one big album because nothing is different. They are all exactly the same. And people think this is a great band, and when they returned, it was a great return of metal. It's ridiculous. Like, it was a great sound, and if they did the one album, it would have been amazing. But you can't keep doing that. You just can't. It's lazy. It's pop. Pop artists do not change their sounds. It's always exactly the same. It's simplistic beats, always following the very simple vocal patterns and lines, because their voices can't do what metal can, so they follow a pattern of what they're capable of, and that is what Breaking Benjamin does. They're not great musicians, they're not good on their instruments, they can't think up great intriguing structures, and they can't even think of a new idea. They have the one idea and they've been doing it for years. And the fans again say this is great, this is a great metal band. It really isn't, I'm afraid. Disturbed, also again, although a lot of people do understand that Disturbed are bad, but a lot of people still support Disturbed. And the problem with Disturbed is the same thing. The vocals are delivered in a unique way, the sound is unique, which is why Disturbed was so good. It was unique, it was different. It was interesting, because it was something new. And that is what metal does. It kind of has the metal kind of sound, but we keep kind of changing it, because there's so much we can do. And we can just show how great our minds are, and how far we can go. We're not just one thing, we are many. But Disturbed always do the exact same thing. It's always just very simple playing, barely any guitar solos. When it's a guitar solo, he basically repeats the pattern 3 times, and then he does a bit of a whittle, and then he ends it. He says, you like that, didn't you? So here we go. You like that? Really? Let's do it one more time. Oh, yes. One more time. And it's just so crap the first time, but he wants to do it another 3 times. And that's like every solo. It's absolutely dreadful. Well, at least on the new album it was. I noticed that he just kept repeating the same thing. I was like, oh, please. And David has a singing style that he always follows. It's his style, it's his thing, it's his staple, and he does it all the time and it never changes. They've done many albums and it's all stayed exactly the same. They've changed subtle things here and there, but overall it's all the same thing. Therefore it's pop. The structure's basic, the playing is exactly very, very basic. They all can't do anything different. It's not talent. It's pretty damn dreadful. So, yeah. The fans kind of ruin metal with all the basically saying what metal is pop, or classic rock, and then supporting screamo bands, which are very simple in structure, very thick in sound, and do terrible things. As I say again, that In Waves song, just in waves, repeated like 20 bloody times, just in waves, in waves, in waves, in waves, and people think it's absolutely a masterpiece. And then just the chorus is going dun-dun-dun, dun-dun. It's terrible. And this actually reminds me of another song, which a lot of people are going to give me hate for again, because this is a legend of a guitarist who died, and people know him as a legend, and the band as legends. And this song is their biggest masterpiece, so this is going to get me loads of hate. Walk by Pantera is a damn lazy song. Yep. Now, you must understand this. I can barely play the guitar, but Walk is basically the top fret, top string, so just top of the fret, so it's right here, top string, and then it's just kind of open, then you kind of put your finger on, and then you kind of bend it down, and that's pretty much about 80% of the song. That is it. You can't tell me that's one of the most legendary guitarists, and one of the most legendary riffs. How can that be a legendary riff when it is so bloody terrible? I could do that, dun dun down, in about a second. It took me to learn that. A Ramones song. It was dun 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 dun, then down dun 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 dun, then slide dun dun dun, then slide dun dun, then back up again. That is way more complicated, and Ramones can barely play. Yet this legendary guitarist who does less is, you know, the most technical. That makes no friggin' sense. Now people saying that it's not 80%, there's more to it than, you know, than that. Well, no, because I play Rocksmith. That's how I learn. And it's actually messed it up, so I can't even play the rest of the song, because it gives you the little bit of the dun and dan, and because obviously I could do that because there is seriously nothing to it, and that is the majority of the song. The game kind of got in its mind, he kind of knows that, so we'll take him to 80 or plus % and add all the other stuff in. But now I can't play it because the song goes a bit too quick, and then there is actually some changes here and there, but because it goes so fast I can't look at the screen and my hand. So it messed it up, but it jumped to 80 because the majority of it is just that. The only other change is to dun dun, but that's basically just kind of chord holds. It's just power chords. There is nothing else there. So I hate that song. It's an absolutely terrible song. It's the blandest of riffs. The vocalist is bloody terrible. Just, can you see your misery? I'm gonna rock it. One step two. It just sounds absolutely awful. It's a terrible sound. It's not singing. It is absolutely dreadful. And I haven't heard actually anything else from Pantera. I just heard Walk, and I don't want to hear anything else because that is so goddamn lazy, so goddamn terrible. Other things I hate, or dislike. I have a dislike for power metal to certain extents, and the reason for this is again repetition. Not being able to challenge yourself and broaden horizons. Trivium, like I know I've complained on Trivium of in ways, but Shogun, Vengeance Falls, Sin in the Sentence, all sound completely different. They don't sound anything alike. Avenged Sevenfold don't sound anything alike. And that is good. So it's capable, you can do it. But with power metal is supposed to be soaring vocals, like soaring, really powerful vocals, and great musicianship. And if that's the case, why does it all sound exactly the same? Great musicianship should follow with great songwriting. But the songwriting is obviously not great because you are copying what's been done by billions. There's that thing like the power metal word generator for lyrics. They just go in and it's just like soaring, flying eagle, angel, demon, knight, power. And it's just all these stupid words. So it's just like, I was riding on the horseback tonight, and my blade in my hand I slayed the dragon. And it's just, all the songs are like that on every power album. So if you just have a list of multiple bands, and it's just one song after the other, flicking through all these multiple power metal bands. It all starts with, I was on my night, and I was on my night, and I was on my night, and I was on my night, but I'm a different band, so my horsey is actually black instead of white, and therefore I'm a great songwriter, I think. It was tricky, but I came up with it eventually. And I slayed a dragon, but this one wasn't red, this one was yellow. I stormed the castle gate, me Viking, this orc, and it's all things like that. It's all kind of fantasy, and it's terrible. It's all following the similar patterns. And then the sound of it all, it has a unique sound to it, but because of that, it all follows the same kind of tropes. My power metal I kind of like is Dragon Force, because Dragon Force kind of changed it up, even though they fall under repetition as well, which is why I have a sort of dislike for them. And you know why? I don't have to explain Dragon Force. They are unique, but they are always fast, therefore repetition and lazy. But Unleash the Archers, I like them. They kind of changed their sound. And that's kind of the new album. Like the albums before, it's all about generals of a dark army and bloody test your metal, and it's all that bloody power thing. But Apex, even though it's about immortal beings and things, it's a concept which obviously kind of brings you into perspective. It's like, oh, it's telling a story. So it's like sitting down and just kind of reading a story of Lord of the Rings. So it's no longer just an album about just power beings and everything. It's more like you're actually having a visual movie told to you. And the sound is kind of different because you get kind of slower songs, and then you get more of the big songs, and then you get the kind of small subtle screams, and then you get a kind of metal breakdown. So it kind of keeps kind of opening itself up and breaking out into something else just for a bit. Therefore, things like that. And then there's other power metal which doesn't even sing anything about things like that. It's completely different. The lyrics are just somewhere completely else, as well as the sound. But you can still fundamentally tell it is power metal. And that is what power metal should be doing. But a lot of power metal acts just follow the exact same thing. And a lot of genres do this. As I say, Screamo is all the exact same thing. I don't think they can do anything different. But power metal followed the same thing. Typical heavy metal follows the same thing, where it's just you get in, you do your heavy speed intro, then your fast riff and everything, then your open musical chorus, and then that's pretty much the song. And you don't even do a solo. It's basically like if a band were to go into a studio and we're a metal band, but we don't know what we're doing. We've never heard metal before. And so you have a whiteboard of the ABC of what metal is. It's just like, number 1, you need a fast intro. Number 2, fast riff. Number 3, melodic chorus. And that's about it. So it's basically like these bands just following the simple structure of what the metal is. It's unbelievable basic. And all bands follow it. And there's another thing I hate, bands that don't do solos. Or some can sometimes do solos. So let's say Alter Bridge, as well as Tremonti's own solo project. I love Tremonti, I love Alter Bridge, so this ain't hate, this is kind of dislike. I dislike the fact that you have Miles Kennedy, which was a guitar teacher. He plays blues. You don't get a lot of blues in metal. So when he plays blues in his kind of metal rock kind of songs, it's very unique and it's very different, and it's quite refreshing to hear something different. And then paired with Mark, which is more metal, but he is also different because his stuff is a lot more kind of musical, but it kind of still retains kind of shred and metal and speed. But it's definitely musical and definitely kind of thought through to have a good, nice flow to it. So the two are two very different entities, and the two are very talented guitarists. So then you can get something like 6 songs in an album that have no solo whatsoever. It's like, well, why? Why is that? You have a great guitarist. It's the Tremonster. He's known as one of the greatest guitarists these days. I don't think he's one of the greatest, but he is definitely great. And then there's Miles Kennedy, who is definitely a great guitarist, even though he's not seen as great as Mark. I still think he is very great, if not kind of on board with Mark, in fairness. And people expect solos. People like hearing the solos and what they can do on the guitar. So why do they not do it? Why do we get solos that don't bother? I find it weird that they don't. They just don't do anything. And it's really annoying. Because people want it. And I believe they know that people know they're good guitarists. They know they're good guitarists. They know that fans want to hear the solos because they're known as good guitarists. So why do they leave them out of songs? Now my dad would probably argue some songs don't need them. Some songs are good enough without them. But I think that's a little silly, because then it's just like, if a song's good enough, then doesn't that mean songs with solos aren't good enough? That they're lacking, they're boring, so they need the solo, because without it the song would be terrible. Now I mean, if all songs were good enough, solos wouldn't exist anymore, they'd be dead. So I think that's a bit silly, really. So I don't think people can argue that. So they can't argue that. So it's not a fact of the song's good enough. It doesn't need one. And then if we were to put a solo in, it would ruin it. Well, it would lengthen the song. It would give it more variety. If it's a melodic solo, some people leave solos out of a melodic because they want it to always be melodic. And it's like, well, if you're a good guitarist, you could clearly do a melodic solo. You could do a blues solo, for crying out loud. Blues solos are very depressing in sound. That's the whole point of blues. Like B.B. King, he doesn't sing, he can do just bloody guitar, and it's just depressing. That's the point. So you can do that. That's a very fast solo, so we want to just kind of keep showing speed. You can do shred. It's just a very musical beat solo, so we don't want to mess it with shred and melodic. Do an upbeat solo, for crying out loud. If you're a good guitarist, you can clearly come up with something. So if it's like, well, for this song, I just didn't feel it. You wrote the song, therefore you should feel your song. All songwriters should all feel something for their song. They should feel it flow through them. If you don't feel the song as you're actually writing it, then is the song really that big a deal to you? It's like, I don't feel it. Like, we have this song, but I don't feel it. It's good, but I don't feel it. I just don't feel the solo for this song. I'm just not getting it. It's like the song should be kind of speaking to you, and as a guitarist, you should be able to kind of flow the emotion of that song that flows through you into your guitar. So, in fairness, I kind of say it's lazy. People who don't play solos on every song is lazy. They're just not bothered. They want breaks live to not bother. They just want to play the simple. And then now and then just go, and do a solo, and it's just like, well, I don't want to do that all the time, you know. I can kind of do it and then just kind of show, yeah, I'm great. But then on another song I can just stand there and just, you know, not care. I'm here for the money, really. That's what it says to me. And I think it's very hard to argue otherwise, as I've kind of explained, and if I've explained it well enough, because someone may still argue. But that's annoying, and I dislike that. And a lot of bands definitely do it these days. Imagine if Maiden released an album, or Megadeth, Metallica, Ozzy, Dream Theater, and they took solos out of half of all their albums that they've put out. How would you all feel? The songs are good enough. Because these are classic bands. So the songs are all still the same. They just took the solos out. They've dropped out. Is it that big a deal? A solo's not that big a deal. The songs are fine. I don't care. Or would you care? I'd care. I think the songs would basically lose a lot of life to them. They'd still be alright, but they're not going to be as big as they were. So, with songs in all solos in all songs, it just adds length, variety, something new to listen to, and shows talent. So, yeah. So basically, I hate Slipknot, and I'll explain why. I hate screaming. I can hate the fans because they can be extremely rude by basically saying Avenged Sevenfold is pop, which is a load of rubbish. And Screamo is the core of metal, when technically it isn't really, because the core of metal is Ozzy, and I've never heard Ozzy do Screamo. I've never heard Ozzy go out and go God, that sounds absolutely stupid. And I've never seen Ozzy do that, or anyone back in them days. The creators of metal, so it doesn't seem metal to me. That's not what metal was called. Ozzy, when he was approaching, he was like, what do you call this? I call this metal. How were you singing? I was singing like that. I wasn't singing like... So, yeah, it's not metal. And then we're supposed to have this thing about pop and music being so simple. Yet we like in waves and we like simple chugs. It's this degent thing, or the gent even, which is basically just dun 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 dun. Again, a very simple beat. It's just a really fat. I like the really fat dun 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 dun, and that is all it is. Like a bunch of musicians on YouTube came together and did a collab, and they released a song called Dread Machine, I think. So if you search that on YouTube, Dread Machine, that's again if I'm right, by YouTubers. So Jard Dines Dread Machine, and you should find it. Now the intro to that song is absolutely god awful. It is so terrible. And the majority of the song is actually quite bad. Now, the reason for this now, so another thing I kind of hate, that gent thing, the dun 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 dun, there's nothing musical to it, there's no great pattern, it's no great beat, it's just very simplistic, like pop, you know, with the simple drum machine or the simple... You're just using the guitar, just dun 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 dun. What's the difference? You can't have songs like you know, the soaring intro of Beast in the Heart. You can't do that with your fingers. You can't do that. That's musical. This is nothing. This dun dun is nothing. They fit in together, but you can't do that with the Beast and the Harlot intro. That is music. I'm getting a little annoyed. So, yeah. And then when you see the instruments, one of my viewers, you're probably going to struggle, so I'll explain this. You have 3 guitarists, and then you have a bassist. Now the bassist, the amount of strings the bass has is like 8 or something. So you can imagine how fat that sound is. Then you have 3 guitarists, and all of them are 8-string guitars. So, or 7. So a typical guitar has like 6 strings. And when you get a 7, that's one thicker string, giving you the thicker sound. And if you go 8, that's even thicker. And all 3 guitarists are using these. Now, if you go with 7, so just that one up above the 6, that is a bass string. That's the low bass string. If you go to 8... that's an even fatter bass string. Then you have a bassist who has like 8 strings, which makes a very, very, very fat sound. So you have 3 of them, plus the bassist, doing the really fat high gain dun 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 dun. You can tell this is really stupid. Like, how thick do you have to be to know that this sound is going to be unbearable? It's not like, this is such a clean, nice sound and musical. And people saying we don't want music, we want a heavy sound. You can have heavy without it being completely disgusting mud. And just big bass sound. If you turn the bass up so bloody high, all you're going to hear is and you're not going to hear anything. So this sound is just so bloody fat, so beefy, such a mess, that there's nothing musical about it. It's not a nice sound at all. Like, Sinister Gates uses Invaders on his guitar. So Sinister Gates uses Invaders by Seymour Duncan. Now the Invaders are the most powerful pickup that they use. So it's a very hot, heavy pickup. He uses the Hellwyn, which is an amp he made, which is a very American amp. Therefore it's a lot heavier and not clean crisp as the British kind of amps like Marshall. So he has a very aggressive tone. But would you say any of his songs sounds like pure bloody mud? He's using the hottest pickups by the company. He's using an unbelievably high gain power amp. He's got bloody pedals which probably give him even more gain. But it can still sound bloody musical. So, you can't argue that. You can't argue, well, we want fat sounds, we just want pure music. Sinister has fat, aggressive sounds. Yeah, Beast and the Harlot is kind of musical, but it's still very aggressive. There's a lot of songs like that. War Pigs by Ozzy bloody Osbourne was a very aggressive song. Enter Sandman is a very aggressive song, but it doesn't sound like bloody pop. and it doesn't sound like mud. It can be aggressive but still musical. This dun 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 with all bass players just sounds ridiculous. It sounds absolutely dreadful. And a lot of bands do this, where it's just like, we need way more strings. And people ask, a lot of people ask Trivium, for your next album, can you play an 8-string please, or a 7-string? Like, fine. Now, originally when I was a kid, I thought, the more strings, obviously, the more kind of playing they're going to be doing, because they're not just using 6, they got to use 7, so that makes it harder. But no, the reason for it is not to actually play more things and get more varieties out. It's so they can just go on the top string and just do that dun 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 just on the top string and just make a very simple bass sound. Like in Waves, you know, the dun 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 dun. That's probably 7 or 8 string guitar, you know, really fat sound where you can just be like, I can nod, great song. If I can't nod, it's just all the where I can think and be like, appreciate the music. It's pop, mate. There's a lot going on here. It's really poppy. Pop music has a lot going on. It's not simple. Pop is very intense stuff. Big solos, you know. Like Justin Bieber, he shreds one out like anything. Insane bastard, you know. And he's doing that really, you know, great epic intros to his songs. That Justin Bieber, oh, God, it's awful. You guys are really thick, and it's absolutely terrible because you are killing metal and you are making it embarrassing to be a fan. I go on Spotify and listen to new releases or new metal acts, and I'm going through list, and all I'm getting is the next song, the next song, the next song, wow, next song, next song, next song. For all I know, I could be listening to the fucking same band. I have no idea. It says it's different, but you can fool me. Because they actually turned around and said this is all the same band. I wouldn't be fully surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised. It's not different. It's not unique. There's no unique sound. There's no unique playing. There's no unique tone. There's no musical tone. There's no musical playing. There's no gifted playing. And when I say gifted playing, I don't mean shred. I mean shred, melody, jazz, blues, melodic solos, fast solos, musical solos, different pedals, different amps, different guitars, different pickups, different strings, just to give you that 1% of a different tone. Instead of, let's use a heavy amp and turn it all the way to max gain and let's go with 20 billion strings of bass. The strings are like this fat and go brrr, and just kind of do that for all our albums, and that'll be it. Because I'm a genius and I think about it. How hard can it be for these musicians? How hard do you think it is for Breaking Benjamin to write a new song when he follows the same pattern? How hard do you think it is for Disturbed, for David Draymond to come up with a certain singing style? So this song is going to be different for me vocally because I'm going to follow the same pattern. And then even Alter Bridge, and I don't like doing this because they are brilliant. For this song I'm not going to do a solo. I know. I shouldn't push myself this hard, but I'm going to sit this one out. Tomorrow. God, that was hard. Sitting that one out. God, I think I need a day off. It's ridiculous. Bands are lazy. Fans are morons because they're actually not noticing this. And actual bands are either being lazy and just doing the simple little things just to get by, to get a paycheck, or they're turning into morons and they're not understanding what metal is either. And it's a scary thing. It's really scary. Avenged Sevenfold, obviously, as I say, I believe is the pure essence of what metal is supposed to be. Yet they listen to some of these things I really dislike and think it's kind of metal. So even they are not aware of it, and it's pretty terrible. It's really bad. It's an epic shame to be a metal fan, unless you're one of these metal fans then you get in your way and you are basically going to bring an end to what metal is. It won't exist anymore. But it'll be like it never left, because you're going to be basically silently killing it. And people are not going to notice because the name will always remain, but there'll be nothing left of what metal was. You need to constantly ask your bands to do solos, vary the solos, make the solos long, challenge them. You should always push yourself, you should always challenge yourself, you should always strive to do better. If the vocals are always following the same pattern, challenge them to change. Challenge guitarists to change. Challenge guitarists to put in more solos if they don't. Don't do screaming. Go for vocals that are real proper vocalists. Sing. Great lyrics. Meaningful lyrics. Great musicianships. Great solos. Vast songs. Massive songs that challenge the mind. Unique tones that have not been done before. Something that just sounds so cool and different and interesting. Don't just keep doing, oh, it's the same sound and I liked it, so it's still great. Don't do that. Because they'll never change. They're never going to get better. They're never going to show you anything new if you keep accepting it. Some bands won't even think about it. They'll just kind of fall into the monotony and they won't be aware of it. You need to push them. And it doesn't mean you hate them. It will mean you care, because you actually push them and you want them to be better. That's a fan to me. And for people who really like the screaming and not the others stuff, you don't like metal. You just don't. You like screamo and it's not metal. It's something else. And you should leave metal alone. So, that'll do it for me. There's probably more I could rant about, but I can't really think about it. I'm just kind of annoyed and kind of got a bit depressed about it, because it's just so depressing just how stupid people are and just the state of the community, as well as bands in general. Because it's like the metal bands, but it's just like I can barely actually see proper metal bands. I just see a lot of screamy crap. Or bands, I'll do a quick one right now. Bands that have great vocalists and have a unique sound, but don't do any great structures, no solos or anything like that. Don't just do anything. It's basically just the very simple formula. We have guitars, we have the amps, we have a vocalist, but we don't do anything. It's just a heavier version of pop then. And then, as I said, screamo, it's basically just screams with more gain, but nothing else. It's just an even more heavier version of pop, but it's still pop. It's the fundamental structure and basis of how to write a pop song. You just use your instruments and vocals on top. And that's it. So, that's it from me. I'm probably now going to be extremely hated, seeing that I've said I do not like AC/DC. I think they're terrible. I pretty much hate Slipknot completely, because a lot of noise, the vocals are unbearable. They're so dreadful. And I hate all screaming bands. So this is probably going to hurt, but I'm Breaking Benjamin. A lot of people do like them, but it's so simplistic. But that's my fault. And I think that the metal community should shut out screamo and bands like Breaking Benjamin and try and ask for a bit more musically out of them. That's what I think. So if you enjoyed, then that's great. If you didn't, well, I did say this is going to be my opinion and you're probably not going to like it, so if you couldn't cope with it, I said you should leave. So if you stuck through with it, that's your fault, not mine. It's my opinion, I'm allowed it. So if you dislike it and you want to whine about it, then that's your problem, not mine. So leave it there. So the next video may be the 13th for the day after, because Miraf has basically come out with a tease thing saying 13 for this month. It may just be an announcement, so again, I'm not sure, but if it's a song, then I'm going to be reviewing that because I really like Miraf. So maybe till then, but if not, then obviously it'll be some other time. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.